It's completely crazy. Your body can't tell the difference because your mind is so powerful.
Yeah.
The power of what you actually say and do and think, that affects everything in your body. Your body's responses will actually adapt to your mind. How did you get linked up with Seth anyway?
Dude, it's kind of a long story. I have a guy who wrestled at UPJ with me, Shane Valco. He's a national champion, and I think he mentioned he knew them somehow. He knew Mike.
Okay.
And was like, hey, you should try to get sponsored by these guys. And I think maybe I reached out to them, and they were like, yeah, we'll talk. Something like that. And then after I had a fight, they called me and said, like, hey, after your next fight, come meet us. We'll see if you're a good fit. And they kind of interviewed me.
That's awesome.
And then worked out from there. Yeah, but I think that we both liked whiskey, so it just kind of a...
The Axe and Sledge guys are awesome. They're a different breed of people.
Yeah.
They're just down-home, American, hardworking people, which, I mean, you know, I would consider you as well.
Yeah, we're kind of from the same demographic, blue collar. We all have similar beliefs, pretty easy to get along with. And now my brother works for the company.
I know.
And my sister's part of, like, the demo crew situation, so the majority of my family's involved now.
That's awesome.
Which is cool, yeah.
So a big family of Axe and Sledge is great.
Yeah.
It's good. I like seeing the logos when you're fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of their things. They were like, hey, you can put whatever you want on your shorts, but Axe and Sledge is going on the butt.
Gotta have it on the butt.
Yeah. It makes for good pictures.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's some awesome stuff. So I was doing research on you, and I mean, we linked up through Seth. We linked up through Seth and Axe and Sledge and everything like that. And you know, you come to the clinic, get your blood work done, get vitamins checked, make sure your blood health is all where it needs to be. So, you know, I'm happy you're coming to us. So thank you for supporting the clinic on that side.
Absolutely.
But, you know, for professional athletes like you, it's really important. Keep those things in line, make sure everything is really looking tip-top shape because you guys train hard.
Yeah.
So from an early age, you're wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you start wrestling? When did you start into combat sports, which I consider wrestling combat sports?
I kind of went to practices as like an elementary school aged kid and wasn't really into it, didn't really want to do it. And then going into junior high, which is 7th grade for me, I was not going to wrestle. And the high school wrestling or the junior high wrestling coach kind of pulled me aside and basically scared me into it. It was like, hey, you're going to wrestle. Okay. So I did it just because I was scared. I was a very shy, timid kid. And I ended up falling in love with it that year, to not make the story too long. And from there on out, it was quit football the following year and was all in after that. And twice a day, every day for a long time.
Yeah,
which was difficult. But as a kid, you don't realize how difficult that is. Whenever you go to school. After school, you have wrestling practice from 3 to 5. I would take a shower and then hop in the car and go to Young Guns, which was our club practice, which was what really gets you good at wrestling.
So you had high school practice and then you had a club?
Yeah, yes. We did that all through junior high and high school. So it would be post-school, like your school practice, 1 hour break to shower, grab something to eat, and drive to the practice, which was 30 minutes away. So really you had 30 minutes, hop in the car, get there, and then train from 6 to 7:30. We'd stop at McDonald's on the way home, get sweet tea and cheeseburgers, and go home, do your schoolwork, go to bed, and do the next day all over again. Okay.
Well, what weight were you wrestling at in high school?
My freshman year, I was about 130.
Okay.
And then each year I got a bit heavier. I think 130, 145, and then 160 my last 2 years.
And what weight class are you in now fighting for Bellator?
145.
145.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's different because in wrestling you get 1 hour.
Sure.
You weigh in, then 1 hour later you're wrestling. Where in fighting Bellator, I weigh in Thursday morning at 9 a.m. and fight Friday night. So you give it quite a bit of time to rehydrate.
I mean, how much weight are you really gaining in between your weigh-in and your fight? Most fighters. Is it like just a couple pounds just because you're dehydrated?
Some guys gain 20, 30 pounds.
What?
It's crazy. There's a middleweight right now who's fighting Adesanya next for the belt.
Okay.
They said he weighed in at 185, and on fight night he was like 220, which seems impossible.
That seems a little high.
Yeah, but these guys are big, so I can see them gaining more weight. For me, I gained maybe 10 pounds.
Okay.
Maybe 56 to 58, which I'd like to put a little bit more weight on. I'm trying to get a little bigger right now.
Are you trying to stay in that weight class?
I want to stay at 45 for a while. I'm not a huge one. I don't think I'm not a very big 145. I don't cut that much weight to make it. So I'm trying to put a little bit of muscle on.
Okay.
And the more muscle you have, the more you can dehydrate water from your muscles and then rehydrate it back. The hard part is putting the muscle on. Because there's such a heavy volume in MMA. You're burning so many calories. First of all, it's hard to find time to do the lifts, enough to really put on muscle, and then hard to eat enough calories to put it on, you know?
Well, you're one of the few that I know and I see. I mean, in your off season, you're lifting weights. You enjoy lifting weights.
I really like it. I love Olympic lifts.
Okay.
A whole lot. I like power clean and split jerks. It feels like I'm working towards something new because it's more than just going in and doing bicep curls. There's technique to it. You can ideally go up in weight, but that's difficult too whenever you have a heavy training load for the week. You know?
The amount of cardio that's being done in your training, I mean, you guys are just getting killed.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what kind of mentality? So this is really interesting to me because I've always looked at fighting. I started watching UFC and MMA stuff way back. I think UFC 6 or something like that was the first one I watched. So I've been watching it for a really long time when I was, buying the DVDs and stuff like that. One of my favorite fighters when I was growing up was Crow Cop. Yeah. He was fighting Pride. He did a little bit of UFC. Did he ever do Bellator?
No, I don't think so.
I think he was doing mostly Pride.
Yeah.
Which those guys were a little crazy back then.
Pride was crazy, man.
Yeah.
You could stomp someone on the head on the ground.
Yeah.
That was pretty
they were
primal.
pretty much doing everything but biting each other at that point. I think it was...
Very minimal rules
in
Pride.
And Pride's still going or no?
No.
Okay, so they're done.
But there's an organization that allows kicks to the head on the ground in Japan. Okay. It's called ONE FC.
I've seen that.
Yeah, they just on Amazon Prime now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
I mean, the world of MMA has definitely grown since I started watching it. Probably you were watching it too.
Yeah.
Did you get into MMA while you were still wrestling, high school, college, everything?
Yeah, in about 8th grade.
Okay.
8th grade was when I decided I wanted to fight. I was watching a GSP fight. He was my favorite fighter growing up.
Okay.
It was always St. Pierre and Silva. And but St. Pierre, when he fought, I think Jake Shields, I think it was in Canada. Crowd went nuts for him, and I was like, I want to do that. And ever since, I've been a big fan all my life, since about that age.
You knew how much work it was going to take. You knew how brutal it was, especially back then. Even UFC back then was a little more brutal than it is now, I think. Less rules, a little bit harder.
Yeah, less skill, though. The sport was so new. So we're in a unique sport where every year the sport's different because it's such a young sport that it's still evolving so much. Now we're in an era where we have lifelong martial artists fighting, where before it was just athletes who could maybe do one discipline. Now you've got guys that have been wrestling and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu since they were kids. So
they're growing into that sport to do that sport.
Yeah, it's becoming a very high level.
Okay.
But, I don't think you can be prepared for exactly what it's like until you've done it. Watching it on TV, I remember I used to watch it and see leg kicks and be like, that doesn't look like it hurts. Not understanding it, you can't really understand it until you feel it. And when I got kicked in the calf for the first time, or the first several times, it changed my perspective.
Yeah, you told me you had a leg kick that was aching you for a little bit.
Yeah.
From a year ago or a couple years ago? I can't remember what.
When I first moved to American Top Team, I was sparring with a guy who was a really good calf kicker, and I had not really ever been calf kicked. And so they don't hurt you right away. They don't feel great, but it's nothing. It's not debilitating.
Sure.
But I took a good many of them because I didn't know how to check them. And then I think I took a bunch more a couple days later. Before you know it, I'm laying in bed at night. I'm waking up from the pain in my calf. It was so hot I had to go get ice and put ice in my bed to fall back asleep because it was just thud, thud, thud. And it hurt me for a long time. I'm just now kind of recovered from it. But I don't get kicked there anymore because I learned my lesson,
So you learn how to check it. You learn how to protect yourself from it. And
I spent a lot of time checking calf kicks because the damage is no joke.
So your college career, pretty impressive. You changed colleges halfway through?
Yeah, okay. Right in the middle.
So right in the middle, you changed colleges. Where did you graduate from?
Pitt Johnstown.
Okay.
Yeah, Division II school. But
you won nationals.
Yeah, for them.
National championship, and then you also were a 2-time All-American for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did that really kind of launch you into the MMA stuff from that? Was that a platform for you?
Yeah.
To get into actual fighting for mixed martial arts?
Yeah, I think that definitely helped me. Most people don't get to start in a premier organization like Bellator at 0-0. I think being a national champion was probably one of the biggest reasons why I was able to. A good amateur career helped, but the national championship title kind of gets you a little bit. You start a little bit ahead, I think.
Now, how did you transition from a wrestling background to also being a striker? Because, I mean, I've watched your fights. You had a very impressive knockout that you called miraculously. I know this has been covered on different YouTube channels and different MMA channels. You called a knockout several days before you actually fought?
Yeah.
Can you give that story real quick?
Maybe
Because
like on Monday.
it doesn't seem real when I tell people about it.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's weird. I'm a believer in the law of attraction and affirmations, positive thinking, all that stuff. I've had a lot of success with that in my life, and so I like to write things down. I write things down kind of every day, things I'd like to have happen in my life. And one thing I've been doing since I was an amateur was when you get to fight week, there's usually a notepad at the hotel with a pen and that little square, and so I'll just write down as if you're looking at a stat book or looking at the results online the next day. I'd write down my name defeats so-and-so and with the time in a round or something like that. And I did it throughout my amateur career and got close. But that one fight, I think that was 2 fights ago. I wrote it down on Monday night or Tuesday whenever I got in and just kind of left it there. Luckily, my manager was in my room the day of the fight and saw it, took a picture of it. Still didn't talk about it. I didn't remember even what number I'd written down.
So what exactly did you write down on that paper? You wrote your name, his name, and then
Law defeats Adcock, 1 minute, 17 seconds, round 1, like in a stat book. And just forgot about it. Dude, I didn't even know what the actual time was. And then I knocked him out at 117, and my manager was like front row, and he's yelling like, "Oh, you called it." And I'm thinking like, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Didn't really know until I got backstage, and they were like, "Dude, you hit the exact time." What? That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's a crazy story.
It's so crazy that people don't believe you.
I got chills just you even saying it out loud because I've said it to people.
Yeah.
And every single person like, bullshit. That was probably fake. It was, it was just for Instagram or just for social media. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. I think it's a real story.
Yeah, the funniest stuff I heard, because of course Twitter's not a safe space, People are going to try to come at you left and right, but the funniest tweets I received were people being like, "Yeah, well, he was fighting a bum, so he probably just counted down in his head and knew when to knock him out." I'm like, bro, how out of touch with reality are you to think that you could go in against anybody and count down in your head?
That's some internet troll that's living in his mom's basement. There was
more than one person who wrote that stuff, and I'm thinking, man, people just really are out of touch with reality. This is someone who's never had an altercation in their life, but it's funny.
It's the person's never been punched in the face.
Yeah, I think everyone should. Everyone should read some history about dark stuff, and everyone should get punched in the face once.
I think it's a really good call.
Get a better outlook.
I almost want to title this episode, "You Need to Get Punched in the Face" by Cody Law.
Doesn't have to be by me.
No. That's going to be the quote. Oh. That's going to be the quote. I don't want anybody to get punched in the face by you. I've seen you strike, and it's pretty devastating.
Yeah, get sued.
Yeah. You're not a large guy, but, if me and you got in a tussle right now, pretty sure that if you got me a good strike on my face, I'm done. I'm gone.
Kick you in the legs, man.
I would just have to hold you down and just try to squeeze you until you were like, all right, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and I outweigh you by, 90 pounds.
How much you weigh?
240.
240?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people don't realize how much skill and how much strength and how to accurately strike and how to strike. It took me years to learn how to punch.
Yeah.
And I didn't really learn. I learned how to fight in the street when I was younger, like growing up. And I grew up in Cleveland. So we got in fights and stuff like that all the time. But then when I became a cop at a young age, I started getting in tussles and stuff like that. It took me a while to really learn because I hurt my hand so many times.
Yeah.
Going after people, punching people because, back in the day, we were, I didn't have a taser. My first agency that I worked for, we didn't have them.
Wow.
I didn't carry it. I never carried my asp because I didn't want to hit anybody with a baton.
Yeah.
So anytime anybody got in a tussle with me, it would always be hands.
Yeah.
I try to wrap them up and handcuff them or we get in a little tussle or fight. But man, I hit a couple people and I hit them in the wrong part of the head and my hand was swollen.
Yeah.
You mess yourself up.
You don't want to punch a head. Yeah. You want to try to punch like the chin or the nose.
Yeah. Well, I was aiming for a jaw. You know what I mean? I'm aiming for a jaw or a chin, but I'm not skilled.
Yeah.
So I end up hitting him in the side of the head or the forehead, man.
Yeah, pretty easy.
My hand was killing me.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to hurt your hands. And people don't realize, even if you know how to throw a punch, the actual act of fighting is stressful. you get tired pretty easily.
Oh yeah.
And so if you haven't been doing it for a long time, you're going to get tired really fast.
Well, I mean, I was in very, very good shape, and this was like the last tussle or fight that I got in when I was a cop.
Yeah.
And dude was drunk and high on something, had a wrestling background.
Oh, geez.
And, you know, he was shorter, stocky.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm tall. I'm in full uniform. I'm, you know, wearing 40, 50 pounds of gear.
Yeah.
And this dude shoots from my hips. I know how to defend a little bit because I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu training going into law enforcement.
Yeah.
But I'm not skilled like somebody that would be, you know, a wrestler, maybe a high school or college champ, or somebody that's a high level. So this dude he shoots me into the side of a truck, and then we're on the ground, and the only thing that I can do is try to hook a leg and flip him.
Yeah.
He keeps widening his stance, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in trouble, you know? So this guy's on top of me, and I probably outweighed the guy by a good 60, 70 pounds. I'm in ridiculous shape because I was training for a bodybuilding competition. I wasn't too close to it, so I wasn't weak yet. I was still very strong, but I couldn't out-skill him.
Yeah.
And the guy kept, and I held him. I basically had him in a headlock, and I held him as tight as I could because the guy kept trying to grab for my gun.
Oh, jeez.
So, you know, it's a dangerous situation. My radio's going off. I got backup coming. But, you know, that guy, his skill, and he kept saying, let me go. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, if I let him go, I'm done. He might stomp me in the head, and, you know, I don't know who I'm tussling with.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not letting you go. And I said, stop widening your stance. Let me flip you over. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to handcuff you. And every time I tried to hook him and flip more, he wouldn't let me. So I'm like, all right, this guy wants to hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's, you know, I had to wait until another guy came, and then we finally got him. But people don't realize how important it is to really, really know how to fight and really, really know what it is. I have a little more respect for it because I've been in fights.
Yeah.
But most people that are saying, like, for your minute 17 call, oh, he was counting down to wait for the knockout. Are you out of your mind? You're fighting another professional fighter.
Even against an untrained person, I mean, I'd count faster than you think you're counting too, you know?
Yeah. It's not a realistic thing. So that knockout was crazy. I wanted you to tell a story because it's baffling to me. It's probably even baffling to you.
Dude, it's not that crazy to me.
Okay.
Just because I've had so many experiences similar to that. Well, I really believe that there's something to it. Mm-hmm. So when it happened, it was cool. I'm like, oh, this is a good opportunity. This will be a big deal, which unfortunately that's the nature of the sport I'm in. Mm-hmm. It is entertainment, so you do have to. It's one of the things I dislike the most probably is I have to be active on social media. I have to present myself somewhat regularly.
You're kind of quiet. You're kind of reserved. Would you consider yourself an introvert?
I think so. I think I'm happier. I like social interactions, but I like to have the option to do it. I like to be alone and choose to go be with people rather than be surrounded by people and have to try to be alone, right? So I don't know what that would make me, but...
Do you see that a lot with people that are in your profession, that are in fighting? Or is there really a big mix in there? Because, I mean, you see some people that are wild and they put on a show. I mean, you got the Conor McGregors of the world that are extremely loud.
Yeah, and that's changed the sport a bit, too, because of his success now, I think there's a lot more people who might not be that way deep down, but they believe they have to act like that to get paid or get attention, whatever it is. I think that it's kind of been outgrown or been overused. Mm-hmm. So now maybe the move is to be the opposite of that. That might stand out a little bit more in a sport full of people that just are nonstop acting like assholes, you know.
So being a little more humble.
Yeah, I mean, why not? And that's who I am, so I don't feel comfortable trying to put on a show and acting weird. I don't even like having to be on Instagram and having to post a set amount of things. And I know it's part of the business, but someday I look forward to retiring and getting off the grid and moving somewhere in the woods and having some peace. You know, I think that being on social media is just so draining. There's you're invested in so many different people's lives.
Well, it can get very negative, as you've experienced both on Twitter, Instagram, you know, wherever you're posting. Yeah. How do you combat that? So how do you combat all that negativity coming in? Do you pay attention to it? So like when you posted that 117, were you reading the comments? Were you reading all that stuff?
Yeah, a little bit, because it was my first real experience with that stuff. Okay. I think that and losing this last fight were my two very unique experiences for me, where I've never really experienced people that I've never met before online wanting to hurt me, wanting to bring me down, you know, saying really, really crazy stuff. So it was good. I needed to read that stuff, and I needed to see that's part of my reality.
Sure.
My sport and my life, and in the future, I think I'll probably cut that stuff out.
Yeah.
I do now, you know, I don't really look at stuff, but it was a good experience for me, despite being negative.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, with all the social media negativity, I always kind of tell people it's a lot of noise out there. A lot of the stuff that you see on social media, you really can't pay attention to.
Yeah.
And most of what's on social media is fake. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not the real person you're looking at. It's not the real person you're talking to. It's all for a show most of the time, you know. I try to be as genuine as possible on my social media.
Yeah.
From a business standpoint, you know, that's another reason why I do these podcasts too, because I want to talk to people in a really calm setting where we're really able to be ourselves and have these conversations.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I talk to professional athletes, you know, whether they're in bodybuilding, whether they're in any sport, you know, MMA for your example, I want them to see the real side of you, you know, talk about this law of attraction stuff, talk about, you know, how you are personally, talk about the mentality that it comes into getting into these athletics and these sports. That's what I think is really going to resonate with people, not the loud talking BS that you constantly see all over social media.
I agree. I definitely gravitate towards athletes in particular who, when I listen to them talk, I feel like I'm getting them and not what they feel like they're supposed to say or they're supposed to do. I've become a big fan of Aaron Rodgers lately.
Me
because
too.
he really seems like he just doesn't care if he's going to get in trouble or not. He's just being authentic. Where so many athletes, I feel like they know this is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to use this narrative, supposed to say these things. There's a script. And it's just not, it doesn't really catch me that much.
It's hard to stand out from the crowd, especially in a sport like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Aaron Rodgers' sake with the NFL, there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with the NFL. You know, there's a lot of things they do that I don't like.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to whatever, the politics of the business or whatever you want to call it, and Aaron Rodgers standing up for himself really big.
Yeah.
Recently, Novak Djokovic, you watch tennis at all?
Yeah, no, I don't, but I followed his situation.
Yeah, so, you know, he made an informed health decision personally.
Yeah.
And now he can't come and compete at the U.S. Open. I mean, that's...
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's great. And I think he missed Australia, too.
Yeah, I think he's missed, like, everything, right?
Yeah, and he is the best tennis player in the world. You know, the guy's... he's a phenom in tennis. He is the next biggest thing in that sport, and he can't do anything because of some obscure health rules that really don't make sense.
It's make believe. It's imagination land.
Yeah,
like we're really someone out there is just, this sounds like what we'll go with, and they're just making stuff up.
Yeah, half
the time when, you know, I don't know. It's so much you can go down the rabbit hole.
Oh yeah,
but it's too bad that. He says Novak?
Novak is his first name, yeah.
Djokovic?
Djokovic is his last name.
It's too bad he couldn't do something where he sets up his own U.S. Open or whatever on a YouTube channel and gets a bunch of money from like ads and stuff, but YouTube would probably shut him down because they get to control.
What I really wanted to see, and you know what unfortunately we're probably never going to see when it comes to a lot of professional sports, I want to see the rest of the athletes bind together as athletes and say, you know what, if you're saying that he can't compete for literally no reason, you know, this reason doesn't make sense why he can't compete, then none of us are going to compete and all these sponsors are going to lose money. I would love to see something like that. That's standing up.
Yeah, unfortunately that'll never happen because they will always, I mean, that's the case with most problems with weight cutting in MMA. It'd be nice if everybody could say, hey, we're not going to cut weight anymore. Let's just compete at our natural weight. But there'll always be somebody who goes, oh, you guys are going to do that? Okay, I'm still going to cut a bunch of weight and have an advantage. Yeah. Just like these players, like somebody's got to make money. So they won't ever do it.
So it's more of a selfish reason that they're kind of, there's always going to be those selfish people in there that aren't going to be able to look at it as a collective thing or as, you know, stand up as a collective in any way.
Yeah. Everybody has personal interests, you know, so they're probably going to choose themselves first, right?
Sure. I mean, you know, there's a certain level of selfishness that I think everybody needs to have because you can have people that are extremely selfless and they give to everybody, and they're constantly giving everything away. And when you do that, you drain yourself, and then you can't actually benefit people anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so when you drain yourself to a point where you can't benefit people, you need to understand that there needs to be a measure of selfishness. And it's I don't even like calling it that.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're going to call it anything, you need to be a little selfish and make sure that you're able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So you can better take care of others.
Yeah, right. They say that you got to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others.
That's it.
So, I mean,
it's a really simple thing, but, you know, I think more now than ever, people are overly selfish, and they're more about taking care of themselves than they are about taking care of anybody else. You know, you see people that are doing this from relationship standpoints, from business standpoints. Nobody's staying in their jobs anymore. People are always looking, grass is greener.
Yeah.
You know, so they're not really committing to anything. I'm seeing that as a societal problem, especially in America.
Yeah, I think that's a large part to do with social media, right? Because not a lot of people actually view social media through the lens that we're only seeing the best of everybody. Their content, they're never displaying the dark sides or the bad sides, right? It's only the best. And I think social media has probably promoted selfishness to the extent that we're at now, where everybody wants to be famous, everybody wants to be beautiful and rich and an influencer, and they want all the spotlight on them. And if you're in my way, then get out of it. You know?
Yeah, if you're not directly benefiting me, then I want nothing to do with you. That kind of attitude is a really, really horrible way to live, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think it's causing a lot of people to have a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety.
I agree.
A lot of mental health issues going on right now because of what is spawning from social media.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There was I listened to Andrew Huberman, his podcast.
Yeah.
He had someone on who was talking about, I think it was his podcast. They were talking about gratitude. And we've always been told that, you know, practicing gratitude is so powerful. But they were saying that they actually found that receiving gratitude from somebody, you telling me thank you, is more powerful for me than me saying thank you.
Interesting.
Which was really interesting, because we probably don't do a whole lot. If you're selfish, right, you're not hearing thank you a whole lot, because you're not doing a lot for people. So that could be a part in the...
So that gratitude being reciprocal on both sides, you're going to benefit on both sides from it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you feel good when you do something good for somebody, right? And they appreciate it. It feels good.
Yeah.
You know?
That makes sense.
But if you don't do that a whole lot, I mean, I noticed that in my relationships. I would prefer to give and not receive too much, because I already have everything I need. I'm a pretty happy guy. But it's nice to help other people that I care about, you know, and love.
Sure. We're going to talk about gratitude a little bit. I'm glad you kind of said that. So you always seem like you have a very good attitude about everything, even after this last fight. Yeah. So getting back into your career in the MMA side, your last fight, you did not win and you were undefeated. So, you know, and that's, as much as it's a sore subject, because we all want to win all the time.
Yeah.
How did you kind of deal with that from a fighter perspective, from a personal perspective? How did you overcome that first professional loss, and where are you at now mentally? Like, what did that do for you?
Well, that's a pretty complex issue. On one hand, it was difficult because it's been 5 years since I've lost at anything. My last loss was in college in 2017.
Wow.
So it was tough.
Okay.
It was tough, and I really, really deep down was like, I'm never going to lose again. I'm just going to be a winner forever.
Okay.
Which, you know, dream big, right? On the other side, I'm pretty acquainted with losing. I was not successful at all early on in wrestling.
Okay.
Losing seasons all the way up to my sophomore year. Always came up short. You know, I lost a lot of disappointment. So I'm pretty familiar with that feeling of losing, and it still sucks just as bad every time. But I recognize that all the best moments of my life athletically came directly after my biggest losses, like my most devastating, heartbreaking losses. The next year, I reached my goal. I had the two best days of my life were state championship and national championship. It came directly after the two worst days of my life. Maybe I'm being a little dramatic because it's just athletics, but to me, it's all I know. The two worst days of my life were losing in the state finals and losing at nationals the years before. So you learn a whole lot when you lose. I know I used to have this this saying written above my bedroom door. My mom painted it for me. It said, "Failure teaches success." And I really believe in that, because you learn so much more when you lose. When you're winning, everything's great. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And there's something to that, but when you lose, all of a sudden you have to step back and go, man, well, why did I lose? And try to figure all these different things out. And I think it just makes a big difference. You have to get tough. You have to be familiar with adversity, and then you can reach your goals.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think it was perfectly said, because after every single, I mean, I don't have an athletic background from my business perspective, but from my business perspective, every time I've had something that has really shaken up everything, and it's been considered a loss or it was really stressful, and I mean, I've had some stressful times coming up in business.
Yeah.
Every single time, pretty much directly after, it's been wildly successful. Because I think it makes you buckle down.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just high achievers figure it out, or if there's some sort of power out there. That horrible low has to be balanced out by a very high high. But I've noticed that quite a bit. The lower the low, the higher the high follows. Yeah,
so that bounce back is always that much higher.
It seems that way. Just like whenever things are going really good, they just kind of stay really good for a while. But if things go low, then they counterbalance pretty high, which makes me excited, because I think I've done pretty well the last few years. If I could do something that's that much better to counterbalance this low point, I'm excited to see what that is.
I mean, from my perspective, when I watched the fight was on my birthday.
Yeah, I know.
The fight was on my birthday. I was pissed. I was like, he's going to win. You know?
I know.
And I was mad and sad for it. I texted you that night. I know you were. I was waiting. I knew you weren't going to text me back right away.
Yeah, did I text back?
You did, like 3 days later.
Yeah,
you had to chill out. Yeah, you had to.
I probably
get it.
stayed off my phone for a few days.
Yeah, so when that fight happened, it wasn't. The loss was devastating because it was a loss. But it's not like you got knocked out. It's not like you got tapped out. It was decision based. And, could you have done better? Of course, you could have won, right?
Yeah.
But, from looking at it from an outside perspective as a spectator, it wasn't something dramatic.
Yeah.
Where you got knocked the hell out, or where you got tapped out, or where it was something detrimental, you broke something, anything horrible like that. I mean, you see on these Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
When he broke his leg.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's a horrible, pretty much career-ending injury. I don't think he'll ever fight again. I don't know.
I think he's probably lost his mind, honestly. But who knows with that guy.
What weight class he fight in?
Him?
Yeah.
55, but he looks like he's like 200 pounds right now. So.
Well, he's big right now. So 50. So if you want up to the UFC, you might get into there with him?
I don't think that'll ever happen. I think he'll be out of there by then. But who knows? You never know.
I would watch that fight because you guys kind of look a little similar too.
Yeah, I hear that.
You have a little bit of a, you're like the calmer, more logical twin brother, and he's like the psycho one.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I would rather be the down to earth, rational person.
So fighting in Bellator now, you're going to fight again, obviously. I know you're training again.
Yeah.
So what's your next steps? What's your next goal? Obviously outside and far past just fighting in the next fight in Bellator. Is sticking in Bellator the goal? Are you potentially looking into maybe migrating to UFC in the future? Is that a possibility?
Right now I'm really happy with Bellator.
Okay.
I want to stay with them, and it's been going really well.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's a better relationship. I'll have a better relationship right now with Bellator than I would anywhere else. Yeah. And I'm just one fight at a time right now. I'm not thinking, of course I'm thinking about being champion. But right now I need to win. Yeah. I need to get a win. Yeah. I need to get back in the win column, be up here again, because I don't like being down here. And I'm going to be down here until I win again. It's just the way it is. So right now I'm hoping to fight in November. Okay. So I'm working right now, but I'm trying to not work too crazy, because that's a long ways away. That's still 12 weeks. And I've been training for 2 months since my last fight, basically, which was a big positive of that fight. I didn't get injured. So I was able to just get right back to it. But in a few more weeks, maybe I'll go home to Pennsylvania for a week, rest up, and then come back and hopefully start a camp, get ready for a fight mid-November, and, redeem myself.
And you're training America Top Team, which is one of the best camps in MMA. I mean, they have some top-level UFC guys, top-level Bellator guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of international fighters in there. So you're fighting with some of the best.
Yeah, man, every day. If you choose to, every day could be a war, but you'll break down.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm very, very big into training smart. I watch stuff every day. I'm always trying to read and figure out what's the best way for me to train, to stay healthy, because I don't want to have like a sprint of a career and then be broken in 3 years. 3 years from now, I want to still be climbing.
How old are you?
You know, 27.
Oh, you're young. So I don't know if that's young in MMA. I don't even know.
No, I think they say your peak is 30, 31.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm definitely still pretty early, but I feel like I'm getting old. Not physically, but I feel like there's so many things I want to accomplish. I need to get moving, and I don't want to sprint and break myself down. Yeah. So I'm trying to really stay up to date, eating clean and getting lots of sleep and living a good lifestyle and training responsibly too, so that I can get the most out of it, versus run yourself into the ground for 2 months, 3 months, and then get injured and be out 3 months.
How often is that happening in the MMA? Because I see a lot of sprints like that. I see a lot of guys come up and they win a couple fights and then out of nowhere they're gone. Yeah. Is that common?
I think so. I don't pay attention too much to what's going on around me.
Okay.
With that sort of thing, I'm trying to focus on myself, because that is where you can get it pretty anxious. When you start looking at everybody else and what are they doing? What are they doing? This guy's in the gym 3 times a day. Oh my, you know what I mean? You don't know what's going on with them or what they're doing behind the scenes. Maybe they're on steroids. They can train 3 times a day. Or maybe they're on the brink of a catastrophic injury. Yeah. So I just try to focus on myself and see how I feel. And it's not perfect. I still get bumps and bruises, but I'm working on it. And I've got a lot of experience now. I always like to say to myself when I'm trying to comfort myself with what I'm doing, I think I spend 24 hours a day with myself. And I've been doing that for like 15 years athletically. So I know what I need the most out of anybody, I think.
Yeah, so you're able to really fine-tune your training, your lifestyle, everything to where you know it's going to be an optimal place for you to fight.
Yeah, I know what's too much, and I still flirt with that line a lot, you know, just to see, well, maybe I could do more, and then I do the extra, and then now this is hurting and that's hurting. There's a sweet spot where I can really keep it going for a while.
Anybody that's a high-level achiever, anybody that's going at anything at a high level, you know, if you have a champion's mindset, you're always going to push and push and push, learning how to pull back a little bit, learning when to rest, learning when to recover, and when to reassess, I think is super important. And people don't do that in life in general. You know, not just in fighting, not just in athletics, but just in life. People don't really pull back and take a look at everything going on, you know?
Yeah, I've read some stuff about how our body doesn't differentiate between physical stress of a workout versus emotional, mental stress from a rough day at work or divorce or whatever is going on in your personal life, which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
Well, it's even, I'll take that even a step further. So I'm currently, not literally currently, but I'm going to start doing my classes again. I'm currently in the process of finishing my master's in psychology. I want to eventually get my PhD.
I'm a psychology major.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like
was
psychology.
Actually a criminology major in my bachelorate, but I'm going into psychology now. The whole point is psychology and the relative balance of hormones and how hormones affect your psychological, prowess. So it's cool stuff.
I've even seen stuff where they say power poses to impact your testosterone levels. Oh, yeah. Sitting like, opened up and stuff versus being closed off. I wonder how true that is.
There's a lot of stuff affecting hormones. It's not just the way you stand, walk, eat. It's the way you think.
Yeah.
You can literally think yourself into having a hormone problem. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I
think I went through that.
The stress. Ago. Oh yeah, for sure.
I think I did.
But the stress thing, it's funny. Your body doesn't know the difference between you actually experiencing something. So let's say you're experiencing, let's say this situation right now is stressful for you, okay? So your body's having a natural stress response. If you now leave this place and a week later you think about this situation, your body will have the same physiological and biological stress effects as you were in the actual situation.
Yeah.
It's completely crazy. Your body can't tell the difference because your mind is so powerful.
Yeah.
So, that whole controlling of the mind and, like you said,
that's visualization.
The visualization, the power of what you actually say and do and think, that affects everything in your body. Your body's responses will actually adapt to your mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, the way you think, the law of attraction.
Yeah. That's all the same.
You brought that in there.
Yeah.
You know, you brought that minute 17 in there, and you made that happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe your internal clock did time it. Maybe those guys online weren't so far off.
Maybe they're geniuses and I just didn't realize it.
Maybe you just didn't realize it, but, you know, your body's subconscious is pretty powerful. So, you know, maybe you knew that was going to happen. You told the universe that was going to happen. And you're like, you know what? That strike's going to happen right now. And you may not have consciously done it. Subconsciously, maybe you did, you know. But yeah, those stress responses, really important. I tell everybody all the time, the way you think, the way you behave, it affects everything. It affects the way you will do anything in life.
I agree. I went through something like that so I tore my pec at Nationals, my junior season, off the bone.
Oof.
Had to have surgery immediately. And I lost a ton of muscle in my arm. Got skinny fat, you know, because you can't do anything. And when I came back from it, I was so desperate to get my body back. So I'm trying. Like, I tried keto, which really I had a bad response to. And overall, everything just seemed like my libido was low. My beard was getting thin. And before I know it, I was so stressed. I'm convinced I've got something wrong with me because I'm smaller, but I weigh more. So I'm having a harder time making weight for wrestling season. It's my senior year. It's my last chance to be national champion. I'm convinced I have something wrong with me. Next thing you know, I have white patches in my beard.
Wow.
Everything. Like, I'm literally getting white in my beard. I see a doctor. She's like, oh, it's just premature aging. And I was like, come on. Premature aging. You got to be kidding me. And then finally, there was a point in the season where somebody pulled me aside. I think my coach Bacora was like, you got to relax, man. You got to relax. And as soon as I actually did relax, eased up on my diet and stuff, my weight came down, my body started looking better, white patches went away. It was like I was tricking myself into thinking I had all these problems.
Well, your cortisol levels were spiking so much.
I think, yeah.
And it was killing the rest of your hormone profile. And that patchiness in your beard,
it was bad.
That's a testosterone and dihydrotestosterone thing. So you were literally killing your natural testosterone and DHT levels, which was causing the patchiness in the beard. Probably your thyroid, too, was causing all that, too.
I think I did. I think I got tested and my thyroid was low.
Yeah.
Which now I think everything's great, right? Everything looks great.
We did blood work on you, and your blood work's perfect.
And I can grow a big beard now.
Yeah, the beard looks awesome.
It was huge.
Anybody watching on YouTube can see your beautiful beard.
Oh, you should have seen me like 1 week ago, dude. It was like...
Was it furry?
Huge. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was getting some strange looks. I finally got it cut.
What would you tell anybody, fighter, normal, just any everyday person, what would you tell them about, you know, how to really go after achieving goals? Because I think, you know, your mindset on law of attraction, your mindset on using failure to breed success, that painting that your mom put, you know, what would you tell anybody, just some last words on how do people get into that mindset? What helps you get into that mindset, and what helps you really keep driving forward and striving forward to keep being successful?
I think don't be realistic. I was growing up in wrestling, I was not very good, and I had someone really close to me one time. I'll never forget. I was saying I want to be state champion this year, and he said, Cody, I'll just be happy if you make it. You know, and then other instances too where they would tell me, you know, hey, just be realistic here. You know, you're probably not going to be state champion. Let's just be realistic. And luckily for me, I had a different mindset, so I was like, no way, I'm going to do this. But to other people who have maybe just a different personality, that can deter them forever. And even still, there's times where I catch myself looking at a less expensive car or something like that, and I'm like, wait a second, you're being realistic right now. I think not being realistic opens you up to all possibilities. You know, and then whenever you think, oh, I can be a millionaire and I can be a world champion, you work harder too, because you know you could do it, right? So
yeah, there's been some amazing people that have achieved some amazing things. So you know,
and they weren't supposed to.
And they weren't supposed to. Everybody discounted them, right?
Yeah, there's like a picture I've seen online where it shows like Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, all these, Michael Jordan, all these super successful people, and it shows their backstory about how, you know, Michael Jordan was cut from his basketball team and this and that. And so it's always the people that are kind of rejected and failures who push through it and become all-time greats.
As you said, failure breeds success, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you supporting the clinic. Good luck on your next fight. I think you are going to achieve some massive success in these next couple of years, and I think you really needed that failure to push yourself there. So I'm really excited for you in the future. I'm pumped to see the next fight, and then the next time we talk, maybe we bring you on here. Maybe you have a championship belt around you.
Yeah.
At some point.
A year or two.
There we go.
Let's do it again.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, man.